A 46-year-old man spends 2 million a year trying to become 18 again. He's transfused his teenage son's blood. He sleeps alone every night by choice. He hasn't had a conversation after 6 p.m. in 3 years. This is Brian Johnson. He represents the most audacious rebellion in human history. Every morning at 5 a.m., Johnson wakes up in his $6 million mansion and begins a routine that would make a Navy SEAL second guess themselves. He measures his body temperature, checks his oxygen levels, takes a whopping 111 pills, and drinks a nutrient-packed green smoothie, and even measures his erections at night because they're a biological marker for his cardiovascular health. Johnson's company, Blueprint, has a mission statement that should inspire you. Make death optional. But here's what people don't understand about his $2 million routine. He's not fighting aging alone, but I believe he's fighting the most resourced enemy in the universe: death. Death has more contractors than any army in history. It has people, typhoons, diseases, accidents, heat waves, which I may add that they have killed more people than COVID. Aging, which has claimed more lives than all wars combined. What's funny about this enemy is that it sometimes employs us to do its dirty work to ourselves. It's everywhere. And I believe it's written in our genes. So the question isn't whether Johnson will win. The question is, what does humanity learn from watching someone actually try? Because what Johnson discovered about death's true power will change how you see every day you live. But here's what's fascinating. We're not born afraid of this enemy. Studies show that children have no real concept of death until the age 3 to 5. How could they? It's too abstract for theory. But different cultures handle this awakening differently. It was interesting to hear that in the Zulu culture, when someone dies, they whisper the news into a child's ear so that they could process it subconsciously before the conscious mind has to grapple with the reality. It's like installing software before the hardware is ready to run it. So only gradually do children recognize that death takes some people away forever. This realization of death's power can take until age 9 or 10. By then, most cultures have built elaborate systems to help us cope with the knowledge. People around the world experience death in a myriad of ways. War not only takes lives of soldiers, but gravely affects civilians alike. To this day, poverty and hunger claim countless lives. And diseases like cholera and malaria still affect parts of Africa and other developing regions. Systematic oppression and ethnic cleansing continue their grime work. Johnson's $2 million routine is absurd to someone who can't afford insulin. But here's another interesting fact. Silicon Valley just invested $5.2 billion in longevity startups in 2023 alone. Peter Thiel and Jeff Bezos are early investors in biotech age-reversing companies. So what does it look like when an entire society is under siege by an invisible enemy? The symptoms are everywhere once you know how to look. Symptom 1, the accumulation addiction. We buy things not because we need them, but because owning them makes us feel permanent. Every purchase is a tiny protest against impermanence. We're building a fortress out of possessions. Symptom 2, the achievement anxiety. We chase success not for joy, but to build monuments to ourselves. Every promotion, every award, every social media post is us screaming, "I was here. I met it. Remember me when I'm gone." Symptom 3, the comparison compulsion. We obsessively measure ourselves against others because if we can prove we're stronger, richer, younger, maybe we can prove we're more deserving of survival. Social media has turned this into a 24/7 competitive mortality contest. Symptom 4, the control fantasy. We develop elaborate routines, diets, exercise regimens, not just for health, but for the illusion of control over the uncontrollable. Johnson's routine is just an extreme version of what we all do. Try to manage our way out of mortality. Johnson drives slowly in his electric Audi to work, reminding himself that driving is the most dangerous thing he does. He's calculated the statistics. Well, accidents account for about 5% of deaths, but they are the ones that feel most preventable. But what happens when our psychological armor against this enemy completely fails? Well, here's something that will blow your mind. Because in medieval times, when life expectancy was barely 30, people seemed to face death with more courage and less existential anxiety than we do today. Jesus Christ was gone at 33, yet he managed to change the world forever. Alexander the Great conquered most of the known world by 32. Mozart composed over 600 pieces, and he died at 35. They weren't just achieving despite death, they were achieving because of it. The Romans had memento mori, remember you will die. But they said it to create urgency, not fear. The Vikings believed that dying in battle would take them straight to Valhalla. Samurai practiced seppuku as an honorable death. These weren't just death cults. There were cultures that understood that facing death directly was the path to a life worth living. When death was expected early, every day carried weight, every conversation mattered, every choice had consequences. But now look at us. We have extended life expectancy to 80 plus years old. But what have we done with the extra time? We spend 40 years in jobs we hate, saving for a retirement we might not live to enjoy, medicating anxiety about death that may be still decades away. It's like we've been given a longer book to write our story, but instead of writing something meaningful, we're just adding filler chapters. So if ancient cultures found ways to face death with honor, what happens to those today who run toward death instead of staying away from it? There's a fascinating psychological phenomenon among people who voluntarily face death. They often report feeling more alive, not less. Fighters like Daniel Cormier, John Jones, Amanda Nunes step into cages knowing they could be seriously injured, or worse, killed. Yet they describe the clarity and peace that comes from accepting mortality. It's psychologically easier to chase death than to be chased by it. And when you dance with death, it becomes a game where you've already accepted the ultimate outcome. We have soldiers who keep on deploying despite having done their time, often report a similar phenomenon. They looked at death in the eye and realized that the anticipation of death is worse than death itself. When we see a hero bravely facing extinction in movies, we rehearse the greatest victory we can imagine. The hero has been the center of human honor since the beginning of human evolution, because they represent our species' refusal to go quietly. But here's what's fascinating. These heroes aren't trying to avoid death. They are trying to control how they meet it. They understand something the rest of us don't. Death is inevitable, but how you face it is not. We have people whose jobs is to dance on the edge of death. Firefighters run toward the flames. Police officers who protect us from who we wish to harm. Paramedics race against time and death itself. They don't seek out the end, but they are reminded of it constantly. But what happens when our denial systems break down? When mortality becomes undeniable for the rest of us?